Hi, welcome back to Zoë Friends. Today we are reading this book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yeah, it is. But right now, I am going to say what happened at the last chapter. You know, the chapter Into the Woods. Chapter 6, Into the Woods. When hiding in the wardrobe, they walked into Narnia. And Lucy wanted to meet the fawn. And Lucy wanted them to meet the fawn. But he got caught for being with a human. Then they met a bird, showed them away to find the fawn. That was a short summary, wasn't it? Okay, so now I'm going to read the next chapter. 7. A day with the Beavers. While the two boys were whispering behind, the girl suddenly cried, "Oh!" and stopped. "The robin!" cried Lucy. "The robin! It's flown away, and it's so hard, right out of sight." And it's so out of sight. "And now what are we to do?" said Edmund, giving Peter a look, which was as to say, "What did I tell you?" You know, like that. You know, like that. One of the times when somebody gets something right with you, and then like when somebody says to you, you're gonna do something wrong, and then you did something wrong, and that person says, "What did I tell you?" And then you all feel bad, and you wish you were right, but then you're wrong. Too bad. So it's like one of those moments when you said that. "Shh, look," said Susan. "What?" said Peter. "There's something moving among the trees over there to the left." They stared as hard as they could. And no one felt very comfortable. "There, I saw it again," said Susan presently. "I saw it that time too," said Peter. "It's still there. It's gone behind the big tree." "What is it?" asked Lucy, trying very hard not to sound nervous. "Whatever it is," said Peter, "it's digging. It's dodging us. It's something that doesn't want to be seen." "Let's go home," said Susan. And then, though nobody said it out loud, everyone suddenly realized the same fact that Edmund had whispered to Peter at the end of the last chapter. Well, obviously I didn't mention that in the summary, but they did whisper in the last chapter. saying, "Can we trust this Robin?" And obviously you can't, since it's too fast and has wings, and you don't. They were lost. What's it like? Said Lucy. Look, it's a kind of an animal, said Susan. And then, look, quick, there it is. And all saw it's this time a whiskered furry face, which had looked out at front of them behind the tree. But this time it didn't immediately draw back. Instead, then he put his paw against his mouth as if the humans put his fingers on his lips when they were signaling to be quiet. But then it disappeared again. The children stood holding their breath. A moment later, the stranger came out from behind. Sorry, I just got distracted. A moment later, the stranger came out from behind the tree, glanced all around as if he were afraid of somebody, as was watching, and hush, made signs, and said hush, made signs to them to join it in the thicker bit of wood where it was standing. And then once more disappeared. I know what it is, said Peter. It's a beaver. I saw the tail. It wants to go to it, said Susan. And it's warning us to not make a noise. I know, said Peter. The question is, Lou, are we to go to it or not? What do you think, Lou? I think it's nice. I think it's a nice beaver, said Lucy. Yes, but how do we know? Said Edmund. Shouldn't we have to risk it? Said Susan. I mean, it's no good. Hi, Davis. I mean, it's no good. Nice job, Davis. You distracted me. Yeah. I mean, it's no good just standing here, and I feel I want some dinner. At this moment, the beaver again popped its head out from behind a tree and knocked earnestly to them. Come on, said Peter. Let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. All keep close. We ought to match for one beaver if it turned out to be an enemy. So the children all got close together. I walked up to the tree and behind it, and there, sure enough, they found the beaver, but still drew back, saying to them in a hoarse, sorrowful whisper, "Further in, come further in, right here. We're not safe in the open." Only when it had led them in a dark spot where 4 trees grew close together. That's there. The broughs meet, and the brown earth and pine needles would be seen underfoot, because no snow had been able to fall there. And it began to talk to them. Are you the son of Atoms and are you sure you're the sons of Adam and the daughters of Eve? it said. We're some of them, said Peter. Shh, said the Beaver. Not so loud, please. We're not safe here. Why are you afraid of us? What are you afraid of? Said Peter. There's no one here but us. The trees? Said the Beaver. They're always listening. Most of them are on our outside. But there are trees who would betray us to her. You know what I mean? And it nodded its head several times. If it comes to talking about sides, said Edmund. Oh, I lost my spot. This always helps me. Found it! If it comes to talking about sides, said Edmund, how do we know if you're a friend? Not meaning to be rude, Mr. Beaver, added Peter, but you see, we're strangers. Quite right, said the Beaver. Here's my token, which these words held up to them. A little white object. They all looked at it in surprise. So suddenly, Lucy said, "Oh, of course! It's my handkerchief, the one that I gave to poor Mr. Tubness." "That's right," said the Beaver. "Poor fellow. He got in the wind of a artist before it actually happened, and happened this over to me. He said if anything happened to him, I must meet you here and take you on to Here the Beaver's voice sank into silence and gave it once and twice mysterious nods. Then, singling to the children, they sat around as possibly could, so that their faces were actually tickled by its whiskers. And it said in a low whisper, They say Aslan is on the move. Perhaps has already landed. Do not ask me any question who Aslan is. Because I know who Aslan is. Oops. Sorry. I dropped the book. Oh, and if you're looking at the lion, this is Aslan. No, I didn't want to say that. Oh, silly. Well, here's my book. And now a very curious thing happened. None of the children knew who Aslan was any more than you do. But the moment the Beaver had spoken these words, everyone felt quite different. Perhaps it has something to you in a dream. in a dream that someone says something which you don't understand, but in the dream, it feels as if it was hard, enormous meaning, either a terrifying one, which turns the whole dream into a nightmare. I don't like this dream if it's a nightmare. All nightmares I had, I woke up. And when I go back to sleep, I just have that nightmare all over again. The next day, for some reason, I dream about cats. It's a weird strategy that I use. I'd rather not talk about it. Between you and me, internet. I definitely just read books until I feel sleepy and I fall asleep. Back to reading. Such a long paragraph. I look at that paragraph, and then I find my spot. Oh, I tonight my part. Or else a lovely meaning too lovely to put them into words. Oh, I had that kind of dream. This makes a dream so beautiful that you remember it all your life. Oh yeah, I remember this one dream. Stop getting distracted. It was like that now, as the name of Aslan. Each one of the children felt something that something jumped in its inside. Edmund felt a section of mysterious honor. Like, what do I feel like I'm feeling honor for this Aslan, whoever he is. That's how I feel. Peter felt suddenly brave and adventurous. Susan felt as if some delicious smell. Ew. A delicious smell or delightful strain of music had just floated by her. And Lucy got the feeling when you wake up in the morning and realize it's the beginning of the holidays, the beginning of summer. I wasn't happy when it was the beginning of summer. But holidays, I do feel good. Except for Halloween. Back to reading. And what about Mr. Tuppence? Said Lucy. Where is he? Shh. Said to Beaver. Not here. I must bring you where we can have a real talk and also dinner. No one except Edmund felt difficulty about trusting the Beaver now, and everyone, including Edmund, was very glad to hear the word dinner. Well, I had dinner just a few minutes ago. Stop getting distracted! They therefore all hurried along behind their new friend, who led them at a surprisingly quick pace and always in the thickest parts of the forest. Over an hour, everyone was feeling very tired and very hungry. And suddenly the trees began to diner in front of them. What does diner mean? In front of them. And the ground began to get thicker in front of them. And the ground out to the open sky. That must be impressive. The ground, the opening sky. Like, seriously. Like, how does the ground go in an opening sky? That's not scientifically possible. Like, seriously. Stop getting distracted! Okay. I promise, and I'm not going to get distracted anymore. But since I can't do the promise to you, I'm going to do the promise with milk here. Side of milk. Hey, milk. Since you don't have a pinky either, I'm going to use your tail for my pinky. I'm doing a pinky promise with her tail. I will not get distracted anymore, like right now. Etc. I say a whole speech, blah, blah, blah. And now back to reading. Thank you, milk. Okay, back to reading. So much details. Stop! Milk, I made a promise with you, and you, and the people that are watching right now, to not get distracted. Okay, that's my speech. Okay, back to reading. It was when I said a speech in front of a crowd. A minute later, they came out under the open sky. The sun was still shining, and found themselves looking down in a fine sight. There was standing at the edge of a steep, narrow valley, at the bottom of which ran at least frozen and a fairly large river. Wait, does it actually say river? Oh yeah, frozen, fairly large river, but blown them a dam had built across the river. And when they saw it, everyone suddenly remembered that, of course, the Beavers were making a dam, and felt quite sure that Mr. Beaver made this one. They also noticed that now he had sort of a mood, modest expression on his face, the sort of people have when you're visiting a garden, which I've been reading. The sort of people have you when you are visiting a garden they've made or reading a story they've written. Talking about gardens. Why are they talking about gardens? So it was common politeness when Susan said, "What a lovely dam!" But Mr. Beaver did not say hush this time. But Merrily a triple, and it really isn't finished. Above the dam, there ought to have been a deep pool, but now, of course, a level of dark green ice. And above the dam, much lower down, was more ice. But instead of being smooth and all this frozen and foamy, wavy shapes under the water that had been rushing. Rushing along at the very moment when the frost came, and where the water had been trickling over, the spurting through the dam, where there was now a glistering wall. Glistering wall of icicles, and inside the dam had been covered all with flowers and wreaths and bridgestones and bursted sugar. And out in the middle, a party on top of the dam was a funny little house shaped rather like an enormous beehive, so that once Milk, I promised I wouldn't get distracted. Oh, I'm not getting distracted. Wait, what? This is not distraction? I'm not being focused? Oh, stop it, Milk. She's so rude. And the whole end of the smoke was coming up. So that's when you saw, especially when you were hungry, the one saw of cooking became hungrier you were once before. That was what the others chiefly noticed. But Edmund noticed something else. A little lower down the river, there was the small river which came down from a small valley to join it. Sounds like a pleasant river. For the one river to be big and then the other river just joining that river. Can you imagine that? Don't say a word, Milk. That's reading. Yes, I know I'm getting distracted. Mark my words, Milk. Mark my words. Edmund, and looking up that way, Edmund could see two small hills. He was sure that they were two hills which the White Witch had pointed to that other way. And then between them, there must have been the lamppost. The lamppost, though, must be her place, only a mile off or less. Being a king, and I wonder how Peter will like that, he asked himself. And a horrible idea came into his head. I never think of horrible ideas. I think my ideas are all great. Well, not all of them are. But I had this one idea when I wanted to fill my whole mouth with whipped cream. But then instead of my mouth, I missed and it went all in my face. Mom, if you're watching, please forget that I did that on my first sleepover when I was 5. Back to reading. Here we are, said Mr. Beaver, and it looks as if Miss Beaver is expecting us. I'll lead the way. Be careful, don't slip. Covered dam was wide enough to walk on, not for humans. A very nice place to walk because it was covered with ice, and though the frozen pool was level on one side, there along this route was Mr. Beaver, led them in a single file, long way up the river and a long way down it. And when they had reached the middle, they were at the door of the house. Here we are, Mr. Beaver, Here we are, Miss Beaver, said Mr. Beaver. I found them. Here are the sons and daughters of Adam and Eve. And they all went in. First thing Lucy noticed as she went in the burying sound, the first thing she saw was a kind of looking old she-beaver sitting in the corner thread with her mouth working busily as she began with her sewing machine. And it was from that sound came. She stopped her work and got up as soon as the children came in. Oh, she has glasses. Sewing machine. One second. Turn looking at the picture. Okay. Done with the picture. Now back to reading. No, I just noticed her feet. Okay, never mind that. Disturbing. Never mind that. So, you've come at last, she said, holding out both her wrinkled old paws. Is she a grandma or Mr. Beaver's wife? Yes, she had old wrinkly pants. And that's what grandmas usually have. And she's wearing glasses. And she's snowing a lot. She's a beaver. And she painted her nails. Ah! I'm getting distracted. That I will, said Mr. Beaver. Wait. No. I skipped a lot. At last, to think I ever should live to see this day. The potatoes are boiling and the kettle singing, and I dare say, Mr. Beaver, you'll get us some fish. That I will, said Mr. Beaver, and he went out of the house. Peter went with him. And across the ice of the deep hole, where they had a little hole in the ice, which he kept open every day with his hatchet, they took a pail with them. Mr. Beaver sat down quickly at the edge of the hole. He didn't seem to mind being so chilly, looked hard into it, then suddenly shook his paw, and before he could say, Jack Robinson had whisked out a beautiful trout, and he did it over again until he had fine catch of fish. Meanwhile, the girls were helping Miss Beaver fill the kennel and lake the table and cut the bread and put the plates in the oven to heat and draw a huge jug of water for Mr. Beaver from a barrel which he stood in one corner of the house, and to put on the frying pan and get the dripping hot. Lucy thought the Beavers had very snug little home, though it was not like Mr. Tubness's cave. There was no books or pictures. Instead of beds, there were bunks, like on a board ship built into the wall. And there were hams and strings of onions hanging from the roof, and hatches of pairs of shears and spades and trowels and things carrying a motor, and in fishing rods and fish nets and snacks and sacks. And the cloth on the table, though very clean, it was very rough, just as the frying pan was nicely hissing. Peter and Mr. Beaver came in with the fish, which Mr. Beaver had already opened his knife and cleaned out in the open air. Especially in open air, fish smell. I just want to throw up. You can think how good the caught fish smell. You think how good the new caught fish smelled when they were Oh, when they were fine. Not when he just yanked him out of the water. I didn't mean to do that accent. That happens sometimes. Fine, how the hungry children longed for them to be done, and how very much hungrier still they had become. Before Mr. Beaver said, "Now, let's put them all back in the empty pot to dry on the side in the range," while Lucy was helping Miss Beaver to dish up the trout so that in the stools it was all three-legged stools in the Cracktail rocking chair, because besides the fire, it was preparing to enjoy themselves. There was a jug of creamy milk for the children. Mr. Beaver stuck to his water, and a great big lump of deep yellow butter in the middle of the table, which everyone took as he wanted to go with his potatoes. The children ought to agree with them. There's nothing to beat good freshwater fish if you eat it, and it has been alive half an hour ago. And I'm eating a fish or any meat. I want to cry because I'm thinking of that poor little animal getting chopped up and getting fed. And I don't want to imagine it. I'm not getting all sappy and stuff. Okay, back to reading. And as it has come out of the pan half a minute ago, and when they had finished the fish, Miss Beaver brought unexpectedly out of the oven a great glorious stick of marmalade roll, steaming hot. This time, they were ready to be poured out, and when each person had got his or her cup of tea, each person shoved his or her tool as towards as able to lean against the wall, and gave a great constant. "And now," said Mr. Beaver, pushing away his empty water mug and pulling his cup of tea toward him, "if you just wait, and if I got my fireplace lit up and going nicely, why, we can start to get business. It's snowing again," he added, and cocking his eyes at the window. "That's all better, because it means we shouldn't have any visitors, and if anyone should have been trying to follow you, why, you wouldn't find any tracks." Thanks for watching my distracted video of me reading The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. And now, there's questions, I think. What is Miss Beaver working at when the children first arrived? Well, Miss Beaver was working on her sewing machine and sewing something. Her glasses. What does the beaver show the children? His house and his dam. Who guided children to meet Mr. Beaver? The Okay, how's the book? Wait, question, Davius. Well, Mom already asked that, but the book is going fine. She asks me every day. It's starting to get annoying. Okay, it's him. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye! Hi, welcome back to Zoë Friends. Today we are reading Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe. Yep. And right now, instead of reading the next chapter, I am going to say what happened at the last chapter. And Chapter 7, A Day with the Beavers. They lost a bird and met a beaver named Mr. Beaver. The beaver brought them to his house to tell him the prophecy and for them to have dinner. Okay, so that is a summary. That's the end of the summary. And now I'm going to start reading. Yeah. So, Chapter 8. Chapter 8. And hi, Davius. Chapter 8. What happened after dinner? This is 11 pages. This chapter. 5.5 pages. And now, said Lucy, do tell us what happened to Mr. Tubness. Ah, that's bad, said Mr. Beaver, shaking his head. It's very bad business. There's no doubt that he's taken off by the police. I got that from a bird who once saw it done. But where is he taken to? Asked Lucy. Well, we're headed northward when we're last seen, and we all know what that means. No, we don't, said Susan. Mr. Beaver shook his head in very gloomily fashion. I'm afraid it means taking him to her house. But what will they do in Mr. Beaver? Well, said Mr. Beaver, you can't exactly say for sure. But there's not many taken in there that ever comes out again. Statues, all full of statues, and they say it in the courtyard, up the stairs. And up the stairs. And up the stairs in the hall, people she's turned, he paused and shuddered, turned into stone. But Mr. Beaver, said Lucy, can't we, we must do something to save him. It's too dreadful, and it's all on my account. I don't doubt you'll save him, if you could, dearie, said Mr. Beaver. Said Miss Beaver, but you've no chance of getting in that house against her will, and ever coming out alive. Couldn't we have some stag, Jen? Said Peter. I could have Couldn't we dress up as something or pretend to be, peddlers or anything, or watch till she's gone out, or, hanging it all? There must be some way. This fawn saved my sister at his own risk. Mr. Beaver, we can't just leave him to have that done to him. It's no good, son of Adam, said Mr. Beaver. It's no good trying, of all people. But now that Aslan is on the move. Yeah, oh yes! Tell us about Aslan, said several voices at once. For once again, that strange feeling of signs of spring, like good news, had come over them. Who is Aslan? Asked Susan. Aslan, said the Beaver. Why, don't you know? He's a queen. He's a king. He's a boy. He's a king, the lord of all the wood. But not often here. You understand, never in my time or my father's time. But the word has reached us as he has come back. He's in Narnia at this moment. He'll settle the White Witch all right. It is he, not you, that will save Mr. Tubness. She won't turn him into stone too, said Edmund. Lord love you, son of Adam. What a simple thing to say, answered Mr. Beaver with a great laugh. Turn him to stone. If she can stand on her 2 feet and look at him in the face, and it'll be the most that she can do in respect of her. No. He'll put all the rights, as it to say, it's an old rhyme in these parts. Wrong will be right when Aslan comes in sight. At the sound of his roar, sorrows will be no more. When he bares his teeth, winter meets and its death. And when he shakes his mane, we shall have spring again. You shall understand when you see him. Why, but shall we see him? Asked Susan. Why, daughter of Eve? That's what I brought you here for. I'm a lead you shall meet him, said Mr. Beaver. Is he a man? Asked Lucy. Aslan? A man? Said Mr. Beaver sternly. Certainly not. I tell you, he is the king of the wood and son of great emperor beyond the sea. Don't you know who is the king of beasts? Aslan is a lion. The great lion. Oh, said Susan. I thought he was a man. Is he quite safe? I shall rather nervous about meeting a lion. That you will, dearie, and no mistake, said Miss Beaver. If there's anyone who can be for Aslan without their knees knocking, they're either braver than or most jelly still. What the? Random word that the Beaver made up, probably. Crazy Beaver. Then he isn't safe, said Lucy. Safe? said Mr. Beaver. Don't you hear what Miss Beaver tells you? Who said anything about safe? Of course he isn't safe. But he's good. He's the king, I tell you. I'm longing to see him, said Peter, even if I do feel frightened when it comes to the points. That's right, son of Adam, said Mr. Beaver, bringing his paw down on the table with a crash that made all the cups and saucers rattle. And you shall. Word has been sent that you are to meet him. Tomorrow you can, thus at the stone table. Oh yeah, the stone table. I know it. Yeah, I know what the stone table is. I'll probably forget this, but someone dies on the stone table, blah, blah, blah. I can't tell you who dies, and then you remember that. Definitely. And then when the stone table cracks, when someone special dies on the stone plate, when stone plate cracks, the thing becomes back alive. That's a stone table. It's where someone in Narnia is supposed to die when they're getting killed. That's what it is. So, if you wanted to know that, I just said it. And we had no choice but to hear that. So I'm going back to reading. Where's that? Said Lucy. I'll show you, said Mr. Beaver. Down the river, a good step from here, then I'll take you to it. But meanwhile, what about poor Mr. Tumnus, said Lucy. The quickest way you can help him is by going to meet Aslan, said Mr. Beaver. Once he's with us, then we can bring doing things. Not that we don't need you to. For another of the old rhymes. When Aslan's flesh and Aslan's bone sits in a chair, a powerful throne. The evil time will be over and done. So, it doesn't even rhyme. Like, seriously. Back to reading. So, things must be drawing near their end. Now he's come, and you've come. We've heard of Aslan coming into these parts before. Long ago, nobody can say when, but there's never been any of your race here before. That's what I don't understand, Mr. Beaver, said Peter. Isn't the witch human herself? That's what I don't understand. Right. She'd like us to believe it, said Mr. Beaver. And it's on that she bases her claim to be the queen. But she's no daughter of Eve. She comes of your father Adam. Your father Adam's first wife. They called her Lilf, and she was one of the jinn. That's what she comes from one side, and the other comes of the giants. No, it's a drop of real human blood in the witch. That's why she's bad. That's why she's bad. Although, Mr. Beaver, said Miss Beaver. True enough, Miss Beaver, replied he. The beavers are having a conversation. It may be two views about human, meaning no offense to the present company. But there's no two views about things that look like humans and aren't. I've known good dwarfs. And Davey has already said that before. I know good dwarf, said Miss Beaver. So I now you to come to speak of it, said her husband. But precious few, there once comes at least like man, but in general, to take my advice, when you meet anything that's going to be human and isn't yet, or used to be human once and isn't now, you ought to be human and isn't. You keep your eyes on it and feel for your hatchet. And that's why the witch is always on the lookout for humans in Narnia. She'd been watching many years. For this many of a year. And if she knew there were 4 of you, she'd be more dangerous still. What's that to do with it? Asked Peter. Because of another prophecy, said Mr. Beaver. Down the find the Carl Parvel. That's the castle on the sea coast on down at the mountain river, which ought to be the capital of the home country, and it should be down. Wait, is it? Sorry, I need to check this map here if it is true as a capital. Oh, yeah. It is. Yep. It is true. I was just hoping that the beaver was lying so I can catch it. Whole country. Where did I leave off? Oh, I distracted myself. The capital of the whole country. If it was it should be down at the Carpavel, and 4 thrones are saying in Narnia to mine, when 2 sons of Adam and 2 daughters of Eve. Eve sits in those 4 thrones. Those 4 thrones. Then it will be the end of not only the White Witch resigned, but her life. And that is why I had to be so cautious. And we came along. For if she knew about your lives wouldn't be worth a shake of my whiskers. Oh, that's a long prophecy. It's only like a little rhyme, like this one. Wrong be right, blah 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 again. Then this one. When blah 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 done, like that. This one was so long. All the children had been attending so hard what Mr. Beaver was telling them that they hadn't noticed nothing else for a long time. During the moment of silence that followed the last mark, Lucy suddenly said, I say, where's Edmund? There was a dreadful pause, and then everyone began asking, who's on last? How long has he been missing? Is he outside? And then all rushed to the door and looked out. The snow was falling thickly and steadily, and the green ice of the pool had been vanished under a thick white blanket. And from there was a little house stood in the center of a dam bank that can either blink. Out they went, plunging over their ankles to the snow and the house every direction. Edmund! Edmund! They called until they were hoarse. Wait, what? But suddenly silently falling snow seemed to muffle their voices, and not even echo in answer. How perfectly dreadful, said Susan. as they came back in despair. Oh, how I wish we'd never come. What on earth are we to do, Mr. Beaver? Said Peter. Do, said Mr. Beaver, who was already putting on snow boots. Do. We must be off at once. We haven't a moment to spare. We'd better dive into 4 church parties, said Peter, and all go in different directions. Whoever finds him must come back here at once. Church parties, son of Adam, said Mr. Beaver. What for? Why, to look for Edmund, of course. There's no point for looking for him, said Mr. Beaver. What do you mean? Said Susan. He can't be far anywhere yet. And we've got to find him. What do you mean when you say there's no use for looking for him? The reason is there's no use looking, said Mr. Beaver. That's where I already know where he's gone. Everyone stared in amazement. Don't you understand? Said Mr. Beaver. He has gone to her, the White Witch. He's betrayed us all. Oh, surely. Oh, really, said Susan. He can't have done that, can't he? Said Beaver, looking very hard at the 3 children, and everything they wanted to say died on their lips, for each felt suddenly quite certain inside that it was actually Edmund had done. But will he know the way? Said Peter. He hasn't been in this country before, asked Mr. Beaver. Has he been here alone? Yes, said Lucy, almost in a whisper. I'm afraid he has. And did he tell you what he'd done or who he met? Well, no, he didn't. Then mark my words. Ow. I slapped myself. Mark my words, said Mr. Beaver. He has already met the White Witch and joined her side, and been told where she lives, and I didn't like to mention it before, he being your brother-in-law. But the moment I sent eyes on the brother of yours, I said to myself, treacherous. He had a look of one who had been with the White Witch and eaten her food. You can always tell them, if you live long in Narnia, something about their eyes. All the same, said Peter, rather choking sort of voice. We'll still have to go and look for him. He's our brother after all, even if he's rather a little beast. And he's only a kid. Go to the witch's house, said Miss Beaver. Don't you see that's the only chance is for saving either him or yourselves is to keep away from her? How do you mean? Said Lucy. Why, all she wants is to get all 4 of you. She's thinking of those 4 thrones at the Carvel Parvel. Wait, what? Once you were all 4 inside of her house, her job would be done, and therefore a few statues in her collection before she had time to speak. But she'll keep him alive as long as he's only one she's got, because she wants to use him as a as a bait to catch the rest of you with. Can no one help us? Wailed Lucy. only Aslan," said Mr. Beaver. "We must go and meet him. That's our only chance now." "It seems to me, my dear," said Miss Beaver, "that is very important to know when he slipped away. How much he can tell her depends on how he heard. For instance, we had started thinking of Aslan before he left. If not, then we may do very well. For she won't know that Aslan has come to Narnia, or that we are meeting him, and will quite off your guard as far as that is concerned. I don't remember his being here and talking about Aslan," began Peter, but Lucy interrupted him. "Oh yes, he has," she said. She said miserably. "Don't you remember? It was he who asked whether the witch could turn Aslan into stone." "Oh yes, he did, Jove." "By Jove," said Peter, "and he sort of a thing that he would say to do." "Worse and worse," said Mr. Beaver. "The next thing was he's still here, and I will tell you, a place of meeting Aslan at a stone table." And of course, no one knew the answer to this question, because if he was, continued Mr. Beaver, then she'll simply sludge down that direction between the stone table and catch us away down. In fact, we shall be cut off from Aslan. But that isn't what she'll do first," said Miss Beaver. "Not if I know her. The moment Edmund tells her that we're all here, and she'll set out to catch us in this very night. And if he's been gone half an hour, she'll be here in about another 20 minutes. "You're right," said Miss Beaver, said her husband. "We must get away from here. Not a moment to lose." Questions? Why is she called the White Witch? She's a witch, and she controls the snow. Where's Edmund? With the White Witch, obviously. What's known as prophecy? Well, there's many prophecy. Starting to talk about it, I can only say it. When Atom's flesh and Atom's bone sits a chair of Havel enthroned, the evil time will be over and done. That's a prophecy. Well, there's more prophecies, but still. Could the witch turn Aslan into stone? Yes. Wait, no. She can't. But that does not mean she cannot kill him. Are you hungry or sleepy? Yawn. I'm both. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye. Hi, welcome back to Zoë Friends. Today we are reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. You know what it says at the poster? Right there. But instead of reading the next chapter, I'm going to say what happened at the last chapter of Chapter 8, Chapter 8, sorry, I didn't know Chapter 8. Same as I thought. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. What happened after dinner? So I'm going to tell you that, obviously. So, Chapter 8. Mr. Beaver told them about Aslan and how he can save everyone from the witch. Then they noticed that Edmund had left. So they went to get Aslan to save Edmund from the from the White Witch. That's the end of the summary. Yay! So now I'm gonna begin reading chapter 9 in the Witch's House. And this chapter is, sorry, I have to count how many pages. Starts at 88 and then ends at 99. Sorry, I had to calculate how long is that. Let me see. Oh, that's about 12 pages. 12 pages. That's how much pages it is. So now I'm gonna start reading chapter 9 in the Witch's House. Just need to put it over here. Okay, perfect. In the chapter 9 in the Witch's House. And now of course he wants to know what happened to Edmund. He had eaten his share of the dinner, but he hadn't really enjoyed it because he was thinking all the time about Turkish delight. Yeah. Why is he so obsessed with Turkish delight now? And there's nothing that spoils the taste of good ordinary food half so much as the memory of bad magic food. If I was him and he met the witch, I would not take food from a random stranger, so I wouldn't trust them at all. Like, who would trust a random stranger that gives you food for free? Like giving a little kid candy. Oh yes, Davies, you didn't make it just in time. And don't call me Zoster. I don't play soccer, and I don't play soccer. And he had heard of the conversation, and he hadn't enjoyed it much either. Because he kept on thinking that the others were taking no notice of him and trying to give him a cold shoulder. They weren't, but he imagined it. And then he had listened until Mr. Beaver told him about Aslan, and he had heard the whole arrangement of meeting Aslan and the stone table. It was then he began to feel very. Well, lost my spot. Now, let me see. 1 second. Found my thought. Okay. It was very quickly to edge himself under the curtain which hung over the door. For the mention of Aslan gave him a mysterious and horrible feeling, as if he just gave others a mysterious and lovely feeling. Just as Mr. Beaver has been repeating the rhyme about Aslan's flesh and Edmund's flesh and Edmund's bone. No, not like that rhyme. Edmund had been very quietly turning the door handle, and just before Beaver had began telling them that the White Witch wasn't really human at all, but half Jim and half a giantess. Edmund had got outside into the snow and cautiously closed the door behind him. You mustn't think that even now Edmund was quite so bad. What he actually wanted his brother and sisters to be turned into stone. But he did not want Turkish delight. But he did want Turkish delight and to be a prince and later king. To pray and to pay Peter out for calling him a beast. As for what the witch would do to the others, he didn't want to hear, particularly nice to them. Certainly not to put them at the same level as him. But he imagined to believe, or to pretend he believed. Hi, Dad. Then, you made me lose my spot, Dad. Okay, just 1 second. Found it! Yes, I found it. He did not want to, but he imagined to believe, or pretend he believed, that she wouldn't do anything, or to pretend he believed that she wouldn't do anything very bad to them. Because, he said to himself, all these people who say nasty things about her are her enemies, and probably half of it isn't true. She was jolly nice to me anyway, nicer than they are. I expect she's a rightful queen, really. She's rightful queen, really. Yeah. He just believes whatever she says. Yeah. Just a little trick of everybody would do that wants to do something bad to that person. Back to reading. She'll be better than that awful Aslan. Oh my goodness. Aslan thought I'm better. He's cute and cuddly and that. And he's the first word in the line, the witch in the wardrobe. Look, the lion. Even if the wardrobe happened first and the witch happened second, then the lion happened last, still, the lion's the most important character. And how dare you think that the witch is better than Aslan? And he's also a cat. At least he was excused to make in his own mind for what he was doing. It wasn't a very good excuse. However, for deep down inside him, he really knew that the White Witch was bad and cruel. Yeah, you see, that's her evil. That's her evil. Look at her full of wild hair and the polar bears. She's torturing those poor polar bears. And the spikes. So I'm getting distracted. Yeah. The first thing he realized when he got outside, and he found the snow falling and all around him, was that he had left his coat behind in the Beaver's house. And of course, there's no chance of going back to get it now. The next thing he realized that the daylight was almost gone, and it has been nearly 3 o'clock as he sat down for dinner. And that's way too early. Late to eat dinner. You at least eat dinner at 8 or 7 or 6, but not 3. 3 a.m.? Wow, that's early. Okay, back to eating. He hadn't 3 o'clock when he sat down for dinner, and the winter days were short. He hadn't reckoned on this, but he had to make the best of it. So he turned up his collar and shoved across the top of the dam. Luckily, it wasn't slippery since the snow had fallen so far side of the river. It was pretty bad when he reached the far side. It was growing darker every minute. You're going in the woods. You're going inside the wood and it's dark. Okay, so let's pretend. This is him. Yeah, this is him. And then he's walking. And it's getting darker and darker and darker and darker and darker. And then soon enough, it gets really dark and gets lost. Blah, blah, blah. She screams, help! And then this whole situation that happens, and then they learn his lesson to not go outside in the dark. And then they yell at him for him being out inside the dark and leaving inside the Beaver's house. But obviously, that's not that type of story. If it was, this would really make more sense. Back to reading. Every minute, and what's with that he and the snowflakes swirling all around him? He could hardly see 3 feet ahead. Then too, there was no road, so he kept slipping into deep dirt of snow and skipping on frozen puddles and tripping over fallen tree trunks and sliding down steep banks and barking his shins against rocks till he was wet and cold and bruised all over. That's him. He's there. Walking. The silence and the loneliness are dreadful. In fact, I think he might have given up the whole plan and gone back and owned up and made friends with the others if he hadn't happened to say to himself, when I'm king of Narnia. 1 second, please. I need to do something. Little break. Okay, and a break. When I'm king of Narnia, the first thing I shall do will be make some decent roads. And of course, that set him off thinking about being king and all the others of he will do this and cheered him up for a good deed. A good deal he had just settled in his mind with sort of a palace. He would have and how many cars all over about his private cinema and how many private cinema and the principal railways would run and what lawns would make he would make against beavers and dams and putting the finishing touches on some schemes for keeping Peter in his place when the weather's changed. First snow stopped, then the wind sprang and it came freezing cold. Finally clouds... Wait. Hold up! Edmund wanted to change the whole Narnia with putting roads and making it look like regular world, all the roads and all the cars. This is a magical land. How dare you do that, Edmund? Sorry. Edmund. How dare you do that? How dare you? You parents, did that. Oh, hi, Evan. And then you want to change it. You want to have your own private cinema. He is, the nerve. Okay, back to reading. And it was full moon and shining all on all that snow. It made everything almost as bright as day, only the shadows were rather confusing. He would never have found his way if the moon hadn't come out of the time he got the other river. You remember he had seen when they first arrived at the Beavers, a smaller river flowing into the great on lower down. Now he had reached into a lower. Now he reached its turn, which followed up. Following into a great on lower down. He now reached this one and turned to follow it up. But the little valley down which came was much steeper and rockier than the one he had just left, and most overgrown with bushes that he could not have managed it in the dark. Obviously, you can't see in the dark. Well, I can sometimes. But still, you can't see in the dark. Especially if you go inside the woods. Even as it was, he got wet through that. He had to stoop under branches, and great loads of snow came sliding onto his back, obviously. When you go outside and when it's snowing and it's dark, that's the most dumbest thing you can ever do. Because you don't know if any animal might come running toward you and then scratch your face off. No offense, Edmund. The animal's the witch. Okay, back to reading. Every time this happened, he thought more and more how he hated Peter. He is your sibling, your brother. I'm sorry, I did not like Edmund. Just as if all these had been Peter's fault. No, it's your fault. Yeah. But at last he came to a part where there's more level, and the valley opened out, and there, on the other side of the river, quite close to him, in the middle of a little plain between two hills, he saw what must be the White Witch's house. And then the moon shining brighter than ever. The house was a really small castle. Think that small? Not like the picture. Looks like it's small, but I can't show you right now. It seemed to be all towers, little towers with long pointed spears on them. Oh my goodness. Sharp as needles. They looked like huge Deems's caps or soccer caps or sorcerer's caps. And they shone in the moonlight. Their long shadows looked strange in the snow. Edmund began to be afraid of the house. I'll be afraid of what's inside the house. These cute little wolfies. Aww. I like wolves. I also like cats and dogs, even if that's technically wolves. I mostly like all animals that are predators. Back to reading. It's not like a mouse is a predator. Back to reading. It was too late to think of turning back now. He crossed the river on the ice and walked up to the house. There was nothing stirring, not the slightest sound anywhere. His own feet made no noise. That's impressive. Especially on the deep, newly fallen snow. snow. That's exactly what it said. On the deep, newly fallen snow. That's what it says. He walked up on and on, past corner after corner of the house, past turrets after turrets. To find the door, he had to go around the far side before he found it. The huge arch of the great iron gates stood wide open. Edmund crept up to the arch and looked inside in the courtyard, and there he saw a sight that nearly made his heart stop beating. What? Oh, nearly. Oh, thank goodness. Stood an enormous iron crouch as if he was ready to spring. And Edmund stood in the shadow of the arch, afraid to go back. With his knees knocking together, he stood there so long that his teeth would have been shattered with cold. Even if they had catching a fear. Get out of there before I catch hyperthermia! How long this has lasted, I didn't know, but it seemed to Edmund to last for hours. Well, that's bad. Only 4 hours until you get hyperthermia, but still. I know. 2 hours. No, 1 hour. No, 1 hour and a half. Yes. Then at last he began to wonder why the lion was standing so still, for he hadn't moved 1 inch since he first set eyes on it. Edmund now removed his little nearer, still keeping in the shadow of the arch much as he could. But now he saw the way the lion was standing and couldn't have been looking at him at all. But supposing it turned its head, thought Edmund. In fact, it was staring at something else, namely a little dwarf who stood in the back of it, 4 feet away. Ah! Thought Edmund. When it springs at the dwarf, it may be my chance to escape. Jesus. It's a statue. Like, how could the dwarf not be noticing if the lion's right there, ready to pounce? Like, seriously, I would notice. But still, the lion never moved. Nor did the dwarf. And now, at last, Edmund remembered that the others had said the White Witch, turning people to snow. Perhaps that was only a stone lion. It's not Aslan. This lion looks uglier. No offense, Aslan. Back to eating. Though a real... Sorry. Of course it must only... Wait. Perhaps this was only a stone lion. As if his student he had thought it must have only been a statue. Wait, As it stood and his thoughts, did he notice that the lion's back on top of his head were covered in swift snow. Of course, it only been a statue. No living animal would have let itself get covered with snow. Then, very slowly, with his heart beating as if it would burst, Edmund without a burst. Let's show you. There he is right there, waiting for the lion to pounce at this dwarf. Right. My pinky's not big enough, so, right. Nope, my pinky's not big enough. I can't reach it. Never mind. The relief which Edmund felt was so great. Edmund volunteered up to the lion. Even now he had hardly dared to touch it, but at least he put on his hand very quickly, and did. It was cold stone, and then frightened to be immersed statue. The relief when Edmund felt so great that in spite of cold, that he suddenly got all warm all over. right down to his toes. And at the same time, there came into his head that what seemed perfectly lovely idea. Probably, he thought. Nothing. Probably, he thought. This is a great line, Aslan. They were talking about. Oh my goodness. If he's the only one that could save you, then why would the witch turn him into stone? He's probably in his fortress, blah, 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 doing whatever he's doing. Like, where were those 4 kids? Waiting for them. She's caught him already and turned him to stone? She's caught him already and turned him to stone? That's the end of the fine ideas about him? Pooh! Who's afraid of Aslan? He's a lion, for Pete's sake! He can bite you in one hole! And he stood there gloating over the stone lion. Oh my goodness. He's so mean. Who would do that to an ancient lion? Like, seriously. Like, gloating, like, ha ha, you turned into stone. Like that, like, seriously. What'd you do it to this cute little face? Huh? Gloat over a statue that looks like this. Gloat saying, ha ha, you turned into stone. If you did, you're really mean. I do not like Edmund. I fully do not like Edmund anymore. Exactly, Davies. And he presently did something very silly and childish. He stumped his lead pencil and put out of his pocket and scribbled a mustache. Okay, now that's funny. Scribbled a mustache on a lion's upper lip and then a pair of spectacles on his eyes. Then he said, "Yeah, silly old Aslan. How do you like being a stone? You've got yourself mighty fine." You got it mighty fine, didn't you? But in spite of the scribbles on his face and a great stone beast, look very terrible and sad and noble, staring right into the moonlight, Edmund didn't really get any fun out of jeering at it. He turned away and began to cross the courtyard. Oh my goodness. He's calling the courtyard now. I would call it a courtyard too. But oh my goodness. If this is a dream to every Edmund and blah, 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 this would not be a good dream. Standing, he got in the middle of it, and there saw a dozen of statues all about. Standing here rather as pieces of sand in a cheese board. When it was halfway through the game, there were stone starts, stone wolves, bears, foxes, and catamounts of stone. There were lovely stone shapes that looked like women, but they were really strips of trees. There was great shape of a senator, winged his horse, and looked like a creature that Edmund would be a dragon. They looked so strange, standing there perfect like, but were also perfectly still. In the bright cold moonlight, the entire work of crossing the courtyard, right in the right middle, a huge shape looked like a man. But it was a tall tree, with a fierce face, a shaggy beard, with a great club in his right hand, even though he knew that it was not a stone giant, not an alive one. And he did not like going past it. Now he saw a dim light showing from the doorway from the side of the courtyard. He went into it. There's a flight of stone steps going up to the door. Edmund went up. Then Across the threshold lay a great wolf. It's all right, he kept saying to himself. It's only a stone wolf. It can't hurt me. Then he raised his leg to step over it. And instantly the huge creature rose, with his hair bristling along his back, opened a great red mouth, and said in a growling voice, Who's there? Who's there? Stand still, stranger, and tell me who you are. If you please, sir, said Edmund, trembling so could hardly speak. My name is Edmund, and I'm son of Adam, and that's your majesty met in the wood other day, and I'm here to bring you the news that my brother and sisters and are in Narnia, quite close to the Beaver's house. She wanted to see them. I will tell her majesty, said the wolf. Meanwhile, stand there on the threshold, as you value your life. Wait, what? As you value your life? What does that mean? Then advanced into the house. Edmund stood and waited, his fingers aching with cold and his heart pounding in his chest, and presently the grey wolf, Margaret, the chief of the witches' secret police, came bouncing back and said, Come in, fortune favorite of the queen, or nothing, not so fortunate. And Edmund went in, taking great care not to tread on the wolf's paws. You're holding a wolf's paws while he's walking you in. He must be short. He found himself in a long, gloomy hall with many pillars, full as if a courtyard had been of statues. The nearest door was a little fawn, with a very sad expression on his face. And Edmund did not help wondering if this might be Lucy's friend. The lights came from a single lamp, and close beside sat the White Witch. I'm come, Your Majesty, said Edmund, rushing eagerly forward. How dare you come alone? Said the witch in a terrible voice. Didn't I tell you to bring the others with you? Please, Your Majesty, said Edmund. I've done my best. The best I can. I brought them quite close. They're in a little house on top of the dam, just up on the Beaver, with Mr. and Miss Beaver. Saw a slow, cool smile, like a smirk. A cruel smile came over the witch's face. Is this all your news? No, Your Majesty, said Edmund. And proceeded to tell her that he heard before living in the Beaver's house. What? Aslan! Cried the queen. Aslan! Is this true? If I find you have lied to me. Please, I'm only repeating what they said, said Edmund. But the queen, who was no longer attending to him, clapped her hands. Instantly, the same dwarf whom Edmund had seen with her before appeared. Make ready for our sled, ordered the witch, and use the harness without bells. Thanks for watching. Now I'm going to answer some questions. Why was she smiling? Like a little smirk. Well, she was smirking because with that evil smirk, like what cartoon villains do, like like that. Because she's evil. That's the only explanation I can have. What does a witch turn the party of squirrels, strays, of a dwarf, and a dog, fox, into a wand? Wait 1 second. of them. She turns all of them. Why does Edmund share the location? Share the location of his siblings. Well, that's obvious because he just wants to be a witch, and he's evil too. Glad I got that over with. Did the white witch turn the fawn into some? Yes, definitely just yes. Do you think Edmund was scared of the wolf? Yes. That's right there. You thought it was a statue laying on the ground. Okay. Laying on the ground like this. Then all of a sudden you're trying to go over him, and then you know? What does Edmund draw on the stone, the lion, in which is courtyard? Like a little mustache and a little glasses. That's the end of the movie. When he's alive, he shows it. What does Edmund want to change Narnia? Oh my goodness. Did you hear me with the whole conversation saying he wants to put Rose in a cinema? Oh my goodness. And he wants to change Narnia because he wants it to be like he wanted to because the White Witch convinced him that he would turn into a king. Back to reading. Answering questions. What would Edmund betray his siblings? Yes. Didn't he just do it? Would Edmund do anything to be a prince? Yes. Didn't he just do it? Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.